All right, let's get started with Chapter 6, Major Scales and Major Keys. So let's first talk a little bit about major scales. So to understand how pitches are organized in music, you must understand these things called scales. So a scale is a collection of pitches arranged in order from highest or from lowest to highest or from highest to lowest pitch. So for example, here is a scale. I'm going to play, how about from right here to right here. This will be my lowest, this will be my highest, and I'll play all the white keys in between. And that'll be, right? I start on middle C, and I go up to the next higher C, and that is a scale from lowest to highest. I could also play it from highest to lowest. Okay, so that is a scale, and in particular, that is a major scale. We'll talk about other kinds of scales later on in the next chapter. Okay, let's move on to slide number 2. A little bit more about major scales. So, major scales are the most common kind of scale in Western music. You can hear a major scale by playing the white keys beginning with a C and ending with a C, which is actually the scale that I just played moments ago. So why don't you try it? Let's take middle C and play all the white keys in between up to the next higher C, right? So we'll go C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, right? And then how about, just for fun, play it the other way. Go C from highest to lowest, right? C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C. So yeah, go ahead, take a moment, pause this video, and practice a major scale. A C major scale in this case, from lowest to highest and then highest to lowest. All right, and after you do that, join me on slide number 3. So now let's take a piece of music, Three Blind Mice, and let's kind of examine this piece of music and see what kind of scale it's made out of. Hint, it's going to be a major scale. So if you would, open up your book to page 276. And if you want, you can also listen to this recording. I will say the recording is in the form of a round, and so it might sound a little more complex than it looks on the page. So don't worry about that. But maybe to get your ears around it, go ahead and listen to that, and then we'll move on to slide number 4. So before we get into the analysis of Three Blind Mice here, just one more thing. You can think of a scale as a summary of the pitch material of a piece of music, arranged in order from the lowest to the highest pitch. What does that mean? That might seem a little abstract to you, a little confusing. So let's get into an example here to hopefully clarify that a little bit. So you have your Three Blind Mice open, hopefully page 276. If you don't, you can see it on page 5 here. On slide number 5 here. So to find the scale on which Three Blind Mice is constructed, first list all the pitches in Three Blind Mice, starting with the last pitch. So let's find the last pitch. The last pitch is in the last measure. We can see it labeled here on slide number 5 on the graphic. At the very end, the last pitch So the last pitch is middle C. So we want to find that first. So then, after we find that, let's go to step 2 here on slide 5, and let's place that C on a staff. So what I'm going to do here, I have some score paper. I'm going to draw a little treble clef to make the staff more official. All right, so I drew my treble clef because I practiced it a lot. Hopefully you did too. And now I'm going to draw my last pitch. Just like that, okay? And that is my middle C. By the way, I'm doing this in red pen, so you can see better on this video. Probably though, and what I usually do is I use a pencil, and you should do that too, because often we make mistakes and it's better to be able to erase. So, okay, we did that. Now, let's go to step 3 here on slide number 5. Let's list the pitches in order moving up. And also keep in mind, to make this a lot easier, it's not necessary to list pitches more than once, okay? So I already wrote my middle C here, for example. Now, if I'm looking through Three Blind Mice, I see that there are many other middle C's throughout this piece, right? For example, in the, let's see here, Three Blind Mice, here we are. In the second measure of Three Blind Mice, I see another middle C, right? And then I see another one over here, and if I were to continue looking, I'd find even more. So you don't have to keep writing all the middle C's. You just, if you write it once for your pitch collection, that's fine. In fact, you shouldn't write it more than once. Only write it once. Okay, so then what do we want to do? We want to write down, we want to list the pitches in order, moving up. So let's go to the first measure of Three Blind Mice. Right? What do I mean by that? The very beginning of Three Blind Mice. What pitches do we see in the first measure of Three Blind Mice? We see, well, first off, E. All right, so I'm going to write that down like this, and I'm going to do this kind of spaced out so you can, so I wrote E there. Now I'm leaving space here between C and E for D, just in case D comes up later, okay? And, oh, look at that. The very next note in Three Blind Mice is, in fact, D. So now I'm going to write D. So now I have, in my pitch collection so far, I have middle C, and then D above that, and then E above that. All right, what's next? So now I'm looking at the second measure of Three Blind Mice, and I see, oh, it's a middle C. I don't have to write it again because I already wrote it. And then E, in the third measure, I see E and D. Hey, I already wrote those. I just wrote them moments ago. So I don't need to write E and D again, right? And then the fourth measure, we're back to middle C. So don't need to write that again because I already have it. Let's look at the next measure though now. In stanza number 2 here on Three Blind Mice, see how they run. My first pitch is G, and then I can see right after that it's F. So I'm going to add those to my pitch collection, first F and then G. Okay, so now so far I have C, D, E, F, G. Now I'm looking at the next measure, see how they run, right? That's going to be E, I already have that. And then the next measure we have G, F, F, E. I already wrote G, F, E, don't need to write that again. And then I see another G, and then when I get to the stanza number 3, all run after the farmer stanza 3 here. I see, oh, now I have a C. Okay, so I'm going to write that C down in my pitch collection. And by the way, I'm going to leave space for, so I'm going to leave space in between the G here and C over here because, hey, A and B might show up in this melody. So let's keep an eye out for A and B. So I'm looking at this first measure of stanza 3, and I see that high C and then another high C, right? All run after the... So after is going to be B and A. So I'm going to add those to my pitch collection, A and B. All right, so now I'm just going to keep going through this whole melody to see maybe something else comes up. See what happens here. So then measure 2 of stanza 3, Farmer's Wife, C, G, 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 I already have those. And then the next measure, cut off their tails with A. I have C, 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 that high C here. And then B, A, B, I already have those. And then another C, carving knife did you. And then the last measure of stanza 3 I have C, G, 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 G. So I already have all those. I'm going to continue through. I have C, C. Now I'm on stanza 4. I have C, C, B, A, B, C, G, G, G. I already have all those in my pitch collection that I wrote down. And then F, I already have that. And then E, I already have that. And D, and then C is my last note. Obviously, I have that already because I started with that. Okay, so that's how I do my pitch collection. Now move on to the next slide. So we should end up with something looking like what you see here on slide 6. Now, mine looks like this. Maybe it looks a little different. That's fine. It doesn't need to look exactly like what we have here with the, on slide number 6. So this collection of pitches that I wrote down, and hopefully you wrote down, of the major scale, well, hold on. This collection of pitches is the major scale we played earlier, right? That one that we started on middle C, and we played all the white keys up to the next higher C, right? So notice that. Also, we can say that Three Blind Mice is in something called the key of C major. We haven't talked about key yet, really, but we're going to talk about it later in this chapter. So keep that idea of key in the back of your mind. We'll get back to that in a bit. Okay, just a little bit more here. Let's go to slide 7. Okay, so let's talk about something called the tonic. All right, this is related to the major scale. So the tonic is, we refer to the tonic as the beginning and ending point of a scale, right? So in the scale we played earlier, we started on C, and we went through all the black keys, B, C, and we ended on C. So the scale we played earlier, the tonic is going to be C, right? Because it's the first and last note. So the tonic is also, we can think of it as the resting point in the scale. And this resting point, the tonic, will generally be found as the final note of a melody. Not always, but in most cases it is. Ask yourself, what is the tonic of Three Blind Mice, right? Well, we wrote down our pitch collection. What did we start with? We started with C, and we ended with what? C. So the tonic, if it's the beginning and end of a scale, is going to be C in this case, right? And as far as the resting point idea, let's just take the 4th stanza of Three Blind Mice. If we play that, let's see. Ever seen such a sight in your life as 3 blind mice? We can hear that last note, mice, feels like a resting point. Let's pretend, well, how about we rested kind of in the middle of the second measure of stanza 4, and we went. Doesn't really feel like a resting point there, because that's not the tonic, right? And then if we continue on, as three, blind, that doesn't feel like a resting point either, right? There's kind of a tension there, right? We kind of want like this resolution. If we just ended on blind, just kind of feeling a little stuck. And then mice, and then we'll be, when we get to that tonic, okay, it's like, all right, now we feel there's a point of rest. All right.